Good morning, everybody. Welcome to episode 207 of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Hawk Blogger. Today's a special day. It is a Thursday, but beyond being a Thursday, I get to welcome in Tim Kodsey of JK Boots, who is representing a new partner for us over here at hawkblogger.com, Hawk Blogger Mornings, Real Hawk Talk, all of us on the crew. And Tim, let me welcome you in. First of all, where are you joining us from?
So I'm joining you guys from Spokane, Washington, the east side of the state, just a little bit over here on the other side of the state. So happy to be here. Still very much Hawks country, just a little bit away from from home field.
Yeah, well, I mean, this was a really cool thing that came up. I will admit, maybe not the smartest business thing to say, but I hadn't heard of JK Boots. I am not as like a much of a boot aficionado as I maybe should be. But someone that works for you guys reached out to me as a listener, avid Seahawks fan, and was like, man, I think you guys, we should work together. And we took the phone call, and it was really cool. One of the things that really stood out to me and got me really excited about working with you guys was that the boots you guys make are often used by firefighters, construction workers, a lot of folks that do the work that makes the world around us possible and safe and get us out in the trails, which is something I'm super passionate about. And I started looking more into JK Boots. Holy cow, you guys have blown up and just making a huge impact with what you're doing. So congratulations on all that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, 100% true. You know, we've really built our business around this essential worker, kind of essential services type of client or person. So, firefighters, electricians, plumbers, like you said, people who make the world go round, just this hard job, hard labor, get your hands dirty, type of profession. So that's super rewarding because you feel like you're making an impact because you're helping those people who help us, make the world go round. We're helping them go round. So that part feels good. And we definitely have an in with this community, and they love quality and they need quality. And, you can't really play games with them because they're going to put your product to the test, and either it's going to make it or it's not. And so that's our focus. Our focus has been for a long time, just quality, turning out good product consistently. So we're really passionate about that. Obviously also passionate about the Seahawks. And yes, our ops manager, Andrew, is the one who reached out to you. And he's actually probably the most diehard Seahawks fan in the whole company. He's got a signed Steve Largent helmet in his office. He's got a signed, I think he's got some cleats signed by Tyler Lockett. So he is very avid, but we're all Hawks country out here. So yeah, that's who we are. That's what we do. And that's what we focus on, and very happy to partner with you. And we know that the people that we want to serve locally love the Seahawks too. So it just felt like a good, natural relationship.
Yeah, I agreed. And I should say this because I know people who are especially not listening live are always like, oh man, I came here to listen to Seahawks talk. What are you talking about this, partnership stuff? Well, first of all, everyone knows I love to talk to people, so we're going to talk anyway. I will put links into the description of the video. You should be able to skip ahead in chapters, but I encourage you to stick around for a little bit because there's also a special deal that we are doing, and I think it's one of a kind. So, Tim has made it possible. We are going to be having a special promo code, Hawk Blogger, which allows you to get 10% off of any purchase at JK Boots. So if you use promo code Hawk Blogger, you get 10% off. But Tim, that's not it. What's going to happen? What's going to happen every time somebody purchases a boot?
So a few different things. So every time someone purchases a boot, and we're gonna count the purchases, and after the first 10, we're actually going to donate a pair of boots to the Wildland Firefighter Foundation, and they're a foundation that we are very in ties with, work very closely with, and they are always working with firefighters in need, and they're actually going to give that pair of boots to the person that needs them the most, that's out on the line working. So that's one thing we're going to do. The second thing we're going to do is we are designing and crafting a custom Seahawks themed pair of boots. And from this moment on until this boot is complete, which should really just only be, a few weeks here, we are actually going to put every name in a hat that makes a purchase, and we're going to draw from that hat, and the winner is going to win that custom Seahawks themed pair of boots, and we're going to make it custom to your foot. We're going to size you up and make it custom to your foot. So if you make a purchase, you get your name put in a hat. You get to get selected for a drawing to win a Seahawks themed pair of boots. I think that's awesome. Andrew's actually the one designing it and making it right now. So we're super excited to see it. It's going to have the colors. It's going to have logos. It's going to be amazing.
This is part of what I love about finding local companies to work with, companies that, I share values with, and I think my audience shares values with. Is this is a win-win-win, right? It is, maybe even more wins than that. It's a win because you get
probably
a great deal on amazing boots, maybe the best boots that are made. You get a chance to win a one-of-a-kind pair of Seahawks themed boots that no one else is going to have.
No one will have them, I promise.
I mean, they're literally, we can't even show a picture because they're being made, handmade, as we speak, to even have a model. And then you'll have to get them custom built for someone's feet. And then also after 10 purchases, you guys are going to be donating a pair to Wildland Firefighters Foundation, so that somebody who's fighting forest fires is wearing the best possible footwear while they're doing it, keeping themselves safe and keeping us safe. This is what we do. We try to give great deals to folks, and we try to give back to the community, and we try to find partners who want to do that as well. So, I think this is awesome. And I think for people that don't know, we won't spend a ton of time on this, but the amount of people that are passionate about boots, you guys have 300,000 subscribers on YouTube or something for a boot-based podcast. I haven't watched an episode yet, but I'm dying to now. What exactly do you talk about on a boot-based podcast?
Great question. We cover mostly the variety of topics of the people who use our product. And we also dive into, awesome boot stuff. But the boot world is growing, and it's big, and it's kind of fun because it's so unique and different to learn about leathers and construction styles and all that type of stuff. But mostly, any content that we try to put out, it's actually highlighting these incredibly diverse stories of people who wear our product and who do stuff in our product. These extreme, elite professionals, industry professionals who are just doing these crazy things, logging in, terrain that's, this steep, and fighting forest fires, and doing, drilling oil in North Dakota, and, traveling around the world doing these remote, crazy jobs. And the reason that we're able to get in touch with these, I would call them these industry professionals, these elite professionals, is because the demand for the product is for it to be so quality is so high. And so that's how we're able to make connections with these people. So we focus a lot on the stories of our customers, and then also just the fun, boot stuff, leather products, construction style. It's pretty interesting. When I got into this, when I was a kid, my dad started this business, and when I started working, I didn't think anyone would care about how boots and shoes are made. And come to find out, actually, a lot of people care about it. So it's pretty cool. I think American manufacturing is the big one too. We make everything here in Spokane, Washington. So I think people really love seeing that. They love hearing what that's like. So I think that's kind of what it comes down to. But we don't have Seahawk talk. So this is something that is new, and we're excited about.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see if we can get John Schneider, Mike McDonald, and some JK boots down the line. So. I think they seem like they'd be great customers. And before I let you go, Tim, I think it's a mom and pop shop. This is something that, it sounds like your folks, am I right?
My parents started it. My parents started the business. I was 13, 14 years old. They started it even before that, but I remember, 8th, 9th grade, getting out of school, run into the shop, very much kind of this old school style of, your dad starts a business and you carry it on. That was how me and my older brother Will, got into it. So I've been making stuff and tinkering in the shop and building boots since I was, a kid, and very much still family owned and operated. It's just us, and obviously the team that we've built now. We've grown a lot since that time. Our reach has spread, but it's me, or Kodzi blood, my brother Will, Kodzi blood, and then JK are actually the initials of my dad, John Kodzi, who founded and started the business.
Amazing. I love it. I love every part of it. I love getting a chance to work with you all, and we'll figure out more ways to collaborate as we go.
Yeah.
But for folks, if you're just joining, use promo code HawkBlogger anywhere on jkboots.com. Gets you 10% off, which is a great deal. You're not going to find that anywhere else. And then every time somebody buys, they get entered into what will be a drawing to get a special one-of-a-kind edition Seahawks themed boot. It's going to be amazing. Trust me. And then third, when we sell 10 boots using promo code HawkBlogger, we're going to give away a pair to a wildland firefighter who's helping to keep the Northwest safe and beautiful, which we all benefit from. So it's amazing. I'm super excited about it. And I really appreciate you coming aboard, Tim, to talk about it. And we'll, I'm sure, have more time to chat as the weeks and months go by.
Thank you for having me. It's a very big pleasure, big honor. Love this community. Anyone listening, thank you for listening. And it's my pleasure, Brian. Thank you anytime.
Awesome. All right. That was Tim Kodsey. Make sure you check him out over at JK Boots and at the YouTube channel. They're blowing up. I mean, it's really, it's amazing to me. I am going to have to, I was wrong. It's not 300,000. It's 418,000 subscribers that they have over at JK Boots. It's amazing. So excited about that. Appreciate you all giving us a chance to talk about that. And now we're going to turn our attention to Seahawks, as we always do every single day. And let me get right into it, because the focus of the show today is going to be, who should the Seahawks keep around in 2025? We're at the point 6 games into the season where we're starting to learn about some guys. We're starting to figure out who you keep, who you don't. There's a lot of conversations going on one-offs for different players. I wanted to kind of summarize this and say, okay, where are we with all these different players relative to what's going to happen next year? So I'm going to get into that in just a second. Before I do that, a little news of the day. We know now that Jamal Adams has been let go by the Tennessee Titans. He was obviously let go by the Seahawks this offseason after being acquired for a bundle of draft picks and other things. And that didn't work out for a variety of reasons, most of which were health related. The Seahawks talked about bringing him back this offseason. Specifically, they wanted him to play linebacker. Jamal Adams wanted to continue to play safety. He signed with Tennessee with a position coach who had prior experience with him in New York with the Jets. Sounds like he was given the, told he was going to get a chance to play some safety. He was also said that he was okay with not being the starter and being a backup. But as of late, he's been a little disappointed in the lack of playing time. And so the Titans granted him his release so he could find a place that maybe would give him a better chance to get on the field. And of course, that's going to lead to a lot of questions about whether the Seahawks are the place that he would come back to. There's some folks that are like, hey, Rayshawn Jenkins just went down and got put on IR. He's a safety. Let's bring back Jamal Adams. I don't know that makes much sense. I think Rayshawn Jenkins is a much different athlete at this stage of his career than Jamal Adams. And I just don't know that Jamal Adams is a safety anymore. Maybe he can be a big nickel kind of linebacker style safety, but I just don't see a lot beyond that. I think if you've seen pictures of Jamal right now, he's just not the same guy he has been physically. And so I have questions about whether Jamal Adams is a fit. Even at the linebacker spot, I have questions about whether he's going to be someone who can help there. He has always been a little bit better of a run defender than anything else, but you'd have to hope that he can actually stay healthy. And you do need to still defend the pass. And so I just have some questions. The Seahawks are probably as likely of a team as any team in the NFL to bring him aboard, given the fact that they did show interest this offseason. They have history with him. But I think the odds are pretty low. I think it seems more likely that Jamal Adams will simply not find a suitor and will be potentially out of the league. So that's my guess. But like I said, if there's a team that would give him a shot, it probably would be the Seahawks. So that is the quick update on that latest news. Let's get to the kind of topic of the show, which is who stays, who goes in 2025. And as we look at this going into this next offseason, we're going to look at this in a few different ways. So, of course, we're going to look at it in terms of how they're playing on the field, but we're also going to look at it in terms of who's unrestricted free agent next year, who is maybe a salary cap casualty next year. We're going to look at all of those things, and I'm going to kind of tell you roughly where I see things going into 2025 as we go through a bunch of guys. There's a lot of free agents for the Seahawks, so there's a lot of guys to go through. Before I do that, let me get to this super chat here from Corey Coleman. He says, I did wildfire for 5 years from the Canadian border to Northern California. This is awesome. Thank you, Corey. That is amazing. I did not know that about you. Appreciate the service that you provided. I absolutely love getting out there and hiking. I think you guys know that. And I love the Northwest. I think you obviously know that based on every hat I pretty much wear. But, I'm so grateful for the people that risk so much to keep the forest safe and keep us safe. So thank you for that. And thank you again to JK Boots for what they're doing with us. All right, so let's get into it. And let's talk about our first person in this conversation about 2025. First person here is Draymond Jones. And, I'm planning on doing this as a kind of spectrum of whether they're going to stay or whether they're going to go. And as far as it goes with Draymond Jones, as you can see here, I've got him pretty far on the spectrum of going. And part of what is driving that assessment for Draymond Jones is something you've heard really on the very first episode, Hawk Blogger Mornings 1, episode 1. I went through, maybe it was episode 2, 1 or 2. I went through Mike McDonald's roster, and there just were not players of Draymond Jones' size and skill set really around. And what they've tried to do so far this season is they asked him to drop weight. They asked him to basically try to be the Jadeveon Clowney, like the 5 tech that, he's typically played 3 tech most of his career. He's been a disruptive, penetrating 3 tech, and that's inside. And now they're kind of asking him to play outside linebacker and be a heavy edge setter and then pass rusher as well, but also potentially drop into coverage. And so far it just hasn't been working. I don't think it's been working that well. I think that he has not been an impact player for the Seahawks. And with the money that he is owed, it feels like this is a situation where the Seahawks are likely to want to move on from him. From a PFF perspective, he has one of the lowest grades on defense. He has a 50 grade overall. He has a 40 coverage grade. So that just gives you an idea of like they're asking an apple to be an orange. Like it's just he's not this player. His pass rush as an edge player, 58.4, not great. Not, relative to the rest of his career, he's been above a 65 graded pass rusher every other year. In some years, he's been a 78 graded pass rusher, 70, multiple times. So you're just getting the worst version of Draymond Jones. I don't think he's actually a bad player. I think he is a mismatch for what they are doing. He does have 17 pressures on the year. So, that's something, and that is some productivity, but I just don't think it's enough to justify what would be, he would be a $25 million cap hit next year. I just don't know that they can do that. They would save $11 million, $11.5 million on the cap if they moved on from Draymond Jones. Maybe they could find a trade partner. They'd get the same cap relief if they traded him. Maybe they could get something in trade for him because he is a valuable player. He's just not certainly not that valuable. And he's not necessarily a good fit for what Mike McDonald's doing. To give you an idea, that would be a $14 million dead cap hit. So this would be a pretty big loss for the Seahawks from a cap perspective, but at least for, better to cut your losses and move on than to, continue to throw good money after bad. There is a question here from Zach Jennings, one of our YouTube members. Says, is this how likely you think it is, Brian, or how much you think it should happen? This is my expectation of what the Seahawks will do. This is not what I want to happen, or what, and there's some of that mixed in there, but this is my analysis of whether these guys are going to be here next year or not. So I think Draymond Jones is trending toward a pretty strong case for him to exit next year. All right, next, Jerome Baker. This is another one that's an interesting one to kind of assess. Jerome Baker is on a 1-year deal. He will be an unrestricted free agent next year, and he's only played a few games, only a few complete games. And if you look at where he is from a PFF perspective, they're pretty happy with him. They give him a 70.6 grade overall, 68 in coverage, 73.5 in run defense. I think that Jerome Baker has acquitted himself pretty well in the games he's played. I think he's definitely had some mistakes, no doubt about it. But I think that he is a talented player. He's a veteran player. The question is, are the Seahawks going to want to bring back one of these veterans that they've signed to play linebacker? As it stands right now, and just so you know, Baker is making around $7 million this year. Let me just double check that, make sure I've got the right number. He is making, $6.7 million this year. He is, how old is Jerome Baker? Jerome Baker's like 28, about to turn 28. So this was kind of a tough one. I think there's not enough data, but the injury situation to me also plays a role in evaluating Jerome Baker. He has been a player that's dealt with injuries throughout his career. So what I have right now for Jerome Baker, I have a slight lean to him going. I think this is one that could definitely vacillate. If he's able to stay healthy and on the field the rest of the year, I think this could swing back towards them giving him another 1-year deal. Don't know if there's another team that would go higher for him, but the linebacker position, the inside linebacker position it's not quite the offensive line situation where there's just so few good players that there's a massive demand for anyone that's above average, but it is in the same ballpark. There are just not that many inside linebackers that are doing great work. It is a lower valued position, but I think it could start to get a little bit more competitive. So we'll see. Jordan Brooks got less of a deal than most people expected. Jerome Baker got a relatively low price deal. So I think we'll have to see there. But I also just, part of my go here is not just on the Seahawks evaluation. It might be Jerome Baker. Does he like being here? Does he like Seattle? Does he love this system? Does he feel good about it? And so right now, I just think things are a little bit more likely towards going than staying for Jerome Baker. Next, the beloved Tyler Lockett. The real estate agent, the wide receiver, the leader in the team. Great guy. I think with Tyler Lockett, this is a situation where, from a cap perspective, next year, Tyler Lockett will be counting $31 million against the cap. I don't see him staying around for that. The Seahawks would save $17 million if they let him go. It would be $14 million in dead cap. There is a chance they restructure or do something like that. I think Tyler has played well this year. I think he could play another year. I think he's certainly not a number 2 receiver anymore. So I think a lot of this depends on what he wants to do. I kind of question whether or not he wants to keep playing. But again, I've questioned that the last couple of years as well. He's got a lot of things going on outside of football, and that might make it easier for him to, transition out of the game and towards his other business ventures. So as of right now, for Tyler Lockett, I have him as pretty likely to be gone next year. I think this will be a mutual thing. I think that he will choose to probably retire, and the Seahawks will certainly want to recoup as much of that salary cap as possible. And someone just said, is the audio gone? Nothing's changed on my end. So let me know if people are having trouble hearing me. So I'm going to keep going, but as far as I know, things are going just fine. All right, so Tyler Lockett, gone. Draymond Jones, gone. Jerome Baker, I think, likely to go. So now we get to an interesting one. I think some of those are probably not as surprising. But when you talk about Geno Smith will have a $38.5 million cap number next year. You would have saved $25 million against the cap if you cut him. If you trade him, it would be the same thing. So the Seahawks could gain significant cap space, and they have Sam Howell. Obviously, John Schneider is excited about Sam Howell. He has definitely shown the interest in being enamored with younger quarterbacks that they can grow with. That he showed a lot of interest in Drew Lock beyond what I think was appropriate, and I think what's proven to be appropriate. And Geno Smith has had a good year. He's leading the NFL in passing yards, but he also, that game against the 49ers is going to stick in a lot of people's heads until it is erased, until he goes into San Francisco and beats them, or turns this thing around and has a very big winning year. There's going to be a lot of question marks about Geno Smith as your franchise quarterback. And so he will also be he's turning 34. He turned 34 last week. He will turn 35 next year. Will the Seahawks look to extend him? Will the Seahawks look to trade him? Here's where I'm at on Geno Smith. I'm curious where you all are. I actually pretty strongly believe that he is going to stick around. And the reason I think he's going to stick around is that the Seahawks have him on a contract. They can afford, like, $38.5 million sounds like a lot, but it's actually relatively small from a quarterback cap number situation. So, having that is not out of the question. I think he's certainly worth that money relative to other quarterbacks that are making, $50 million and above. So I don't think the Seahawks are going to, hesitate a lot at that cap number. Obviously, you always want to remove things down, but I don't think that's going to be the thing that scares them off. The question is whether they would extend him. And as it stands right now, I don't think they will. Right now, I don't think they will. I think that they will ask him to play out the final year of his deal. And Geno Smith may not be willing to do that. He may hold out. He may not be happy with that. I think the team will feel like they can play hardball. And if he doesn't choose to report, I think that they will just give Sam Howell the reps, and that might be something that they are okay with regardless. So I currently do not think they're going to try to extend Geno Smith. This is, again, not what I want. I'm telling you what I think is going to happen. I think that they will play hardball, say, we need to see you play out this year. He'll be 35 at the end of this deal. And then they're going to be betting on whether or not there's significant enough market to where people are going to give him a Kirk Cousins style deal at 35 years old that will go beyond what the Seahawks are willing to offer him. So I think they're going to make Geno play out the string. I think that Geno is going to really not want to do that and potentially hold out. I think overall, I think he'll eventually come back to the fold and he will play. And then we'll see. But I don't know that I see another team making a significant enough offer to make it worthwhile to trade him. I don't know if I see Geno Smith forcing his way out. And so at this point, I think Geno Smith is around next year. I think this could change. I think this is one that could change. This is not a super strong, all the way to the right end of the spectrum in terms of staying, but it's definitely over the line for me in terms of what I expect there. Next, Jarran Reed. Jarran Reed is going to be an unrestricted free agent next year. So currently, Jarran Reed is making, he counts $6.5 million against the cap. He signed, in 2023, he signed a 2-year deal worth $9 million. He is going to be 33 at the end of this deal. And Jarran Reed has been a good player for the Seahawks. As of right now, he's got a 75.7 PFF grade. He has got a 75.2 pass rush grade. He's got 19 pressures on the season. This is the highest pass rush grade he's had in his career. And so he is quietly having the best season of his career. And this is something Mike Morris actually kind of predicted. He thought this would be a great defense for Jarran Reed. So far, it has been. Again, he is, I think he is third on the team in pressures behind Boye Mafe, Derek Hall. It might be fourth. No, he's third. He is third on the team in pressures behind Boye Mafe and Derek Hall. He has 19. So Jarran Reed's an interesting one. And when I kind of evaluate the Jarran Reed piece, there's another piece to this, which is his leadership. He is someone that Byron Murphy has really looked up to as a leader. They see him as a leader in that room. The thing that I have some question about, and where I currently land, maybe surprisingly, is I have him just over the line towards leaving. Now, I think the team would be interested in having him back, but I think Jarran Reed is looking like he may come off his best year. And this is probably his last meaningful contract that he'll be able to sign. He may get an offer that is just higher than what the Seahawks can afford to pay him. Because if they pay him a significant contract to stay, you're now looking at 2 high-priced veterans in the defensive tackle room, where you've got Leonard Williams already counting significantly against the cap. Leonard Williams next year will be counting $29 million against the cap. If you bring in Jarran Reed at another high-ish cap number, and remember, the defensive tackle market has been booming, and you spent a first-round pick on Byron Murphy, that starts to feel like too much resource in one specific position group. And so this is less a commentary on, again, not whether I want him back or whether I think he's good or bad. Just looking at the overall makeup of the roster, I have a slight lean towards him getting a better offer somewhere else. This could be a Jordan Brooks situation where the Seahawks would have been happy to have him back, but another team wanted him more, went in and paid him a contract the Seahawks were not able to match given what was going on with Leonard Williams. So I think that he may be somebody that they are not able to keep. But this is one that could absolutely bounce back and forth. This is someone who maybe the shocker is maybe they extend him during this season. He's one guy that you could imagine that happening with, but it's a tough one. I think Jarran Reed's a tough one to prognosticate. And I think that as of right now, I give a slight lean towards him going, and the Seahawks leaning on Byron Murphy to ascend into that starting role, and for some other guys that we'll talk about in a little bit to take over in that situation. So slight lean towards leaving, towards going for Jarran Reed. Tyrell Dodson. He's kind of become, public enemy number 1 on Seahawks Twitter. People really are down on Tyrell Dodson. I am not as down on Tyrell Dodson as the rest of Seahawks Twitter, for sure. Some of that is because admittedly, I like the guy. I think he's a stand-up guy. I think he's a good person. I think he's a guy you want in the locker room. I think that he is a physical player. I think he is an accountable player. I think he wants to learn. I think he's young. He is young, and this is his first opportunity to get real reps. And I think he's learning on the job in ways. And in this defense, this is the first time he's learned this defense. So I'm admitting bias that I like Tyrel Dodson, and I think that enters into this a little bit. I also think that there's a chance for him to really make progress the rest of the season, and if he can correct some of the gap fitting mistakes, the run fit mistakes that he's been making, I think this guy is someone you want to keep around. I also believe, he is a leader. I also believe that the Seahawks most likely are going to want to keep one of, maybe none of, but I think they might want to keep one of Dodson or Baker, knowing that Tyrese Knight's someone that can ascend. Maybe they will look to add more linebackers in the draft. But I think Dodson's a guy that could be the person who kind of steps forward. As of right now, I have got him roughly in the same spot as Jerome Baker. Despite all the things I just said, I have a slight lean because of the recent play where they would walk away from Tyrel Dodson and Jerome Baker. So right now I have them walking away from both of the linebackers that they signed to one-year deals. I think most likely they keep one of them. I think one of them is going to stand out. I think Tyrel Dodson is the more likely of the two. I think he's more likely to want to stay here than Jerome Baker. I think that he is more likely to really want to or like demonstrate the ascension that I think the Seahawks are looking for. Jerome Baker at this point would probably be considered the better player. So he also will probably demand a higher contract. I think Tyrel Dodson's going to be a guy that will be affordable to keep around. And I think that he and Tyrese Knight could be a pairing that the Seahawks go with. And we've seen that in games. We saw that before. So I think that's something that currently I have him going, but I think that of the two, he is the more likely guy to stay. All right. Next, Laken Tomlinson. If Tyrel Dodson isn't public enemy number one on Twitter, Laken Tomlinson's up there as well. Again, another guy that I love as a person, really good person, great guy to have on the team, accountable, wants to be great, but has also struggled and just from a pass protection standpoint has not been a viable starter so far. When you look at where he is, the interesting thing, and people are going to be like crazy about this, the state of the guard position is so bad in the NFL. If I asked you, where is Laken Tomlinson in the list of starting guards in the NFL? Where's his PFF grade rank? Where does he rank? If I told you out of, let's see, how many? Out of 63 starting guards in the NFL, where does Laken Tomlinson rank in his PFF grade? He ranks 28th. So he is in the top half of guards, according to PFF. And that's not because he's got some amazing grade. It's because there's just not that many. He's got a 65.7 grade. That's not great, but it's actually above Brandon Sheriff, who a bunch of people are saying we should trade for him from Jacksonville. Well, Tomlinson's playing better than him in some ways, or at least roughly similar. There's just only a few guards, honestly, that, I mean, Kevin Dotson for the Rams, who has signed that massive deal, has a 59.8 grade right now, has not been great. Osiris Torrance, who was a guy that people were really high on for a while, 56.5 grade. And then, you get to the bottom of that ranking, the worst graded starting guard, or at least has gotten enough reps to qualify, is Zach Zinter, the rookie, at a 43.2. The second lowest is Anthony Bradford at 46.4. So, yeah. with all that in mind, I just I really question whether or not the Seahawks are going to want to stick with Laken Tomlinson or whether they're going to want to go with one of the younger players they're developing. For me, there just hasn't been enough to where I think you're going to want to keep this guy around. As of right now, I have the Seahawks moving on from Laken Tomlinson. I have them likely going towards one of their younger players at that position and hoping that they can develop someone to be a strong guard, whether it's Atao Lamea, whether it's Christian Haynes, whether it's McClendon Curtis, whether there's a number of guys they might be. Maybe they draft another player, but I don't think Laken Tomlinson will be back in 2025, at least as it currently stands. All right, next, Jonathan Hankins. I won't spend as much time here. I think Jonathan Hankins is in this last year in the NFL. I think he will retire. He's been an effective player for the Seahawks. There's not that many guys that are able to play the nose tackle position well, and so he's able to have a long career, 12th year of his career, but I don't think that that's going to continue. I think he will choose to retire. So for me, I think it's a strong likelihood that Jonathan Hankins goes. So that's where I am with Jonathan Hankins. Trey Brown. Trey Brown will be an unrestricted free agent. Trey Brown is having a up and down year. And, I think people remember the game against the Giants, which was definitely a bad game. Generally speaking, Trey Brown has had kind of an up and down career. His last 3 games were awful. He started the year pretty well, but his last 3 games, he has been victimized in each of those games. And so I just don't think, I think the Seahawks are going to be looking to kind of get better play out of the third cornerback position. And I think that they will likely move on. I think that they will likely want to see, maybe this is a Nehemiah Pritchett. Maybe this is someone else that they bring aboard. Maybe one of these guys that they are working with on their practice squad. Maybe it's someone that they draft. But I think Trey Brown will probably get enough money in free agency that he will be hard for the Seahawks to retain, even if they wanted to. But I think he is pretty likely to go. Now, here's the thing. This is kind of the complicating factor. Trey Brown right now, if free agency started right now, I don't think he would command a particularly big deal. And even though the cornerback position's at a premium, I think that he could be a 1-year deal kind of player to want to prove it. And I think he most likely would want to take that 1-year deal somewhere other than Seattle if he doesn't feel like his play was best suited for what they were doing. There is a chance that Trey Brown kind of plays his way back into the Seahawks, depending on if he's kind of a middling player. There's a chance that they might look around and say, yeah, for $6 million a year, this guy's better than what we're going to get elsewhere. Let's go ahead and keep him. So I think that's the most likely scenario I think the most likely scenario is that he goes and that they look to move on to someone else. But I think there is a chance that just from a numbers perspective that they decide that he is worth bringing back. I can't quite tell what Mike Macdonald thinks of Trey Brown. I think he feels generally positive, but if you talk to folks that look at the film, especially guys like Cody Alexander, like before the season even started, it was just like, this is not this you have a third cornerback problem. And if you are getting that pretty clearly through film study, I think the Seahawks probably want to see if they can upgrade that spot. All right, DK Metcalf, the subject of many discussions of late and past and present. I have DK Metcalf as an interesting one. So if you're looking at DK Metcalf from a salary perspective, he will count $31 million against the cap next year. This is a guy that you're likely going to want to extend and lower that cap number. If you were to trade him, you would save $11 million in cap. So, you could save $11 million and get some draft picks if you traded him. As I said on Real Hawk Talk last night, I just don't see that as particularly likely. I think that DK Metcalf, whatever you feel about him, is the most talented player on the offense or close to it. He is a factor that opposing teams have to account for, even if we feel like at times he's not coming close to really realizing his full potential. It's hard for me to imagine John Schneider looking at one of his draft picks that worked out and is a high quality player and saying, nope, we're gonna move on from this guy. I think the most likely scenario, if you look at John Schneider's background, when he drafts a guy that hits and contributes, he generally re-signs them and he gives them good money to stick around. So I think DK Metcalf is highly likely to be around. I think he stays. I think they extend him. Again, this is not necessarily what I am saying they should do or what I recommend that they do, but it is what I think will happen. As of now, I think it's highly likely that DK Metcalf will stick around and be part of the Seahawks, not just next year, but in future years. George Fant, you may not realize, signed a 2-year deal this year to be the Seahawks swing tackle. I think George Fant is not going to be here next year. I will cut right to the chase on George Fant. The team would save $3.8 million on the cap if they cut him. I think the injury situation, we'll see if he's able to get back and contribute, but even the few snaps we saw, it did not look great. It seems like age is catching up. He's already been contemplating retirement. I think this is it for George Fant. I do not think he will be back with the Seahawks next year. I'm pretty confident on that one. Next, new name. Roy Robertson Harris is just back with the Seahawks, for the first time yesterday at practice, wearing number 98. Here's the thing with Roy Robertson Harris that people may not realize. So he comes to the Seahawks with a contract already. He is not guaranteed any money by the Seahawks next year. So they could cut him and save $6.6 million against the cap. But this is where the Jaron Reed stuff comes into play as well, and the Draymond Jones stuff. I think Roy Robertson Harris gives you a younger version, not that much younger, but a little bit younger version of the Jaron Reed, Draymond Jones. You get a little bit of both of those guys. I think that he can play inside. I think he can be a starter for you. I think he can do it at a relatively affordable price. So I think they could restructure his deal, lower that cap hit, and keep him. And I think he's basically auditioning the rest of this year to see if he's the guy. From what I've seen, I think he's going to be a difference maker in run defense and a difference maker in terms of the physicality of that defensive line. I think situations where you've got Roy Robertson Harris, Byron Murphy, and Leonard Williams on the field, or Jonathan Hankins, Byron Murphy, and Roy Robertson Harris, I think you're going to see some significant upgrades in terms of how physical this line is with him. I think he is highly likely to be around next year. I think he is part of the future of this team, not just part of the present. He's got a contract that is going to be advantageous for the team to work with. I think he fits a spot that they need help, and I think he's the type of player that Mike Macdonald is going to want on his defensive line. So I think it's very likely that Roy Robertson Harris sticks around. All right. If you haven't already, take a chance to give the show a like and click subscribe. I would appreciate it. Also, head over to ftnfantasy.com. Use promo code HBAM to get 15% off of Stats Hub and everything else over there. So highly recommend you do that. I'm a subscriber over there. It gets you less than $8 a month if you use promo code HBAM. And then the other one that I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the show that I highly recommend folks take advantage of, go over to JK Boots, use promo code HawkBlogger, get 10% off any boot you buy. If you use promo code HawkBlogger, get entered to win a pair of Seahawks themed boots, and the 10th purchase of boots using promo code HawkBlogger by us collectively as an audience will trigger a donation of a pair of boots to a wildland firefighter and the Wildland Firefighters Foundation. So great cause, great product. Make sure you take advantage of it. It's the right place to be, right thing to do. All right, so let's get back to it with looking at who's going to stay and who's going to go. So we just talked about Roy Robertson Harris. I think he is very likely to stay. And now we go on to Noah Fant. So we've got the Fant brothers. They're not related, but George Fant, I think, is going to retire or is going to be let go and then retire. Noah Fant. So this might be a surprise to people because he just signed a contract last year. Why, Brian, are you putting him on this list of potentially guys that might not be around? Well, Noah Fant signed a deal that if he is cut in 2025, the Seahawks will save $9 million against the cap. So this was a 3-year deal. A 2-year deal. And I think that as it stands right now, I don't think you can justify Noah Fant at what would be a $7.5 million cap number. Noah Fant next year would be a $13.5 million cap number. I think you take the $9 million savings. I don't think you're getting enough from the tight end position to justify that. Now, again, I didn't think he was worth spending that money on in the first place. So, this might be me again getting in my own head and what I think should happen versus what I think the Seahawks will do. But I look at this and I say, the Seahawks right now are over the cap for 2025. I've talked about some places where they'll get under it. I'm not worried about that, but they're not like swimming in cap space. And I just don't think Noah Fant is a guy that you keep around when you can save $9 million, spend that on offensive linemen, spend that on cornerback, spend that on some other positions of need. I just don't see it with Noah Fant. Right now, I think he's going to go. I'm putting it at 50-50 because I wouldn't have thought they would have signed him in the first place to this deal. Maybe they'll look at this and say, hey, there's not that many athletic tight ends. We're going to keep him around. If you look at what's his production been this year, what are your guesses about what Noah Fant's production has been this year? He is sitting there at 24 targets, 20 catches for 198 yards and no touchdowns. If we look at what that projects to over the course of a season, that would be 57 catches for 561 yards. I think when you can save the kind of money, when you can save $9 million, I'm not sure that it makes sense for you to keep Noah Fant around. I got it at 50-50 because I just think the Seahawks have shown a propensity to spend money here when I think they shouldn't. But, if you ask me, I think he should be on the go side of this spectrum. All right. Next, Rayshawn Jenkins, who just got put on IR. Man, he came out so strong. Looked like a great addition to the safety room. He and Julian Love seemed like a fantastic pairing. And then, admittedly, he's had a really rough few games and really fallen off and been a big part of the problem for the Seahawks over that period of time. To give you some idea, Rayshawn Jenkins, from a grade perspective, he was the 8th ranked safety in the NFL heading into, I want to say the Detroit game. The Seahawks had the number 1 and number 8 ranked safety in the NFL. Against New England, he had an 80.9 grade, 72 coverage grade, 79 run defense. He was fantastic, I felt like, in the opening game against the Broncos, was all over the field, had some problems wrapping up on tackles, but was just delivering big hit after big hit. Then Detroit, 47.2 grade, 48.7 in coverage. The Giants, 50.4 grade, even though he had the touchdown return on the fumble. 59.5 coverage, 40.4 run defense. San Francisco, even worse, 28.5 overall grade, 28.2 run defense, 39.2 coverage. He has been falling off the face of the planet. So now with the injury situation as well, I've just got to wonder if this is a good fit for Rayshawn Jenkins. Right now, I'm splitting it down 50-50. I think there's folks that are going to be like, what are you, crazy? He's got to be in the strong go category. I still see with Rayshon Jenkins a guy that has the potential to be a really good match with Julian Love. I think he's a smart player. I think he's a veteran player. I think he's a physical player. I think he's a good match for what they want to do at big nickel. And I wonder what the injuries might have to do with some of the situations. I wonder if linebacker play in front of him is contributing to some of his poor fits. I'm not out yet on Rayshon Jenkins. And they signed him, if you didn't know this, he was signed to a multiple year deal. So this isn't just a, do you offer him a new contract? This is about, do you cut Rayshon Jenkins? You would save $5.4 million against the cap if you cut Rayshon Jenkins. He'll be 31 next year. He will have a $7.9 million cap number. So I think, it is absolutely a worthwhile question about whether or not you keep Rayshon Jenkins. I don't think it was a question to start the year. It certainly is a question now. I have him as a 50-50 as of now. Personally, I think I lean more towards staying. I think that, you look at Kayvon Wallace, I don't think he's going to be the guy that they line up behind. Maybe Jarek Reed. If Jarek Reed has a strong showing this season, then I think that increases the likelihood the Seahawks move on from the veteran and Rayshon Jenkins, and maybe they want to see what Jarek Reed has to offer. Maybe Ty Okada comes in and surprises and gets some snaps and plays well. Maybe Kayvon Wallace turns things around, and any of those guys stepping forward would increase the likelihood that that they would move on from Rayshon Jenkins. As it stands, I think that the Seahawks probably end up keeping him. Do not let him go. But we'll see. I think we'll see what he's like when he comes back from injury. We'll see what other players do while he's absent. All right. That is it. I forgot. I got to the end. I didn't even realize I had reached the end. That is all of the players. So as a quick recap, I have got Draymond Jones as going. I've got Jerome Baker as right now more likely to go than to stay. Tyler Lockett as pretty likely to go. I think he'll retire. I think that'll be the end of his time with Seahawks and in the NFL. Geno Smith, I have as more likely to stay. Not get extended necessarily, but for him to be asked to play his final year of his deal. Jaron Reed, I have right now as slightly likely to go. It's a tough one to project, but I think that Roy Robertson Harris is the guy that they will keep around. Tyrell Dodson, I have as a little bit more likely to go. Laken Tomlinson, I have as more likely to go. Very likely to go. Jonathan Hankins, I have as retiring. Trey Brown, I have likely to go. DK Metcalf, stay. I think he'll be extended. George Fant, I think will be let go. Roy Robertson Harris will be kept. Noah Fant, 50-50. I think more likely that he goes, but 50-50. Rayshon Jenkins, 50-50, but more likely that he stays. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Hawk Blogger. This has been episode 207. Make sure you like, you subscribe, and go over to JK Boots. Use promo code HawkBlogger. Get yourself a new pair of amazing boots that you will love, and help get a wildland firefighter a free pair of boots while you're doing it. All right, take care, y'all.